How's it going, guys? My name is Brian. I'm a videographer and photographer based in Brooklyn, New York, and today I have a very interesting film camera to talk about. This is the Lomography Lomomatic 110 film camera. If you're unfamiliar with 110 film, it's about half the size of a 35mm frame size. And this was introduced by Kodak in 1972 to make it easier for consumers to take photos without having to load a 35mm film cartridge. By the early 2000s, these 110 film cartridges were stopped in manufacturing by most companies like Kodak, but Lomography decided to bring them back in 2012. And this year, they introduced the Lomomatic to try to make 110 film a little bit more relevant. This is a really interesting film camera that slides open like this if you want to expose the lens. This is actually a 23mm wide-angle lens made out of glass, which is surprising. I thought it'd be made out of plastic. It has a shutter speed range of 30 seconds to 2/50th of a second. I believe this is automatic. I wasn't entirely sure about how it swapped between the shutter speed range, but I do know on the top of the camera you have an ISO function, so you can pick between 100, 200 to 400. And then there's a bulb mode, which is a little difficult because there is no tripod thread screw on this, so you need to figure out a way how to mount this securely without it shaking. So I think the bulb is just there as an option, but I don't know how feasible it is. It's powered by one CR2 battery, which is found in most electronic stores, so that shouldn't be too hard to find. And on the side of the camera is your zone focusing system. Now, this camera does not have autofocus, so don't expect this to be easy as a point and shoot camera. So I think people that are going to pick this up probably aren't going to be straight new time film photographers. You're going to need to know how to zone focus and predict distance. There's 0.8 meters, which is your minimum, 1.5, 3 meters, and infinity. This camera retails for about $99, and it comes with a flash extension, which makes this unit, if you buy as a combo, $119 US. Now, this flash is really interesting. You can detach it with this wheel, and it has three options: flash off, flash night, and flash sun. Flash night is, I'm assuming, a weaker flash strength, and the flash sun is a stronger flash. And there's a little slit here to add gels, which I did not get in this production testing unit, but that possibility is there. Again, on the bottom of the camera, you have your night and day switch. Your day will close your aperture and night will open your aperture. And then you also have a multi-exposure switch if you want to take multiple exposures on the same frame. You can load the Lomomatic by extending the camera, opening the back, and then you have this really pretty simple cartridge. You just slide it in, close, and then cock it. And then if you want to advance to the next frame after you take a shot, you just keep extending and closing, and it'll go to the next frame. So my initial impressions of this camera is that it seems like it should be really easy to use. And I love the aesthetic of this camera. This is the Golden Gate colorway. There is another, I think, chrome or silver version of this, but I much prefer this colorway. I was actually stopped by security when I went into a concert and they were asking what this was, and they just let me pass by. So if you're curious to see if security would stop you at some venue, most likely they won't, because they just see this as like more of a novelty item. So if you're curious about the types of film you can get, because 110 film is not really produced anymore, and Lomography, it seems to me, I might be mistaken, is the only manufacturer of 110 film that's readily available. And I have a couple different options here with me that I shot on. Lomochrome Metropolis, which has an ISO range of 100 to 400. I have color negative Tiger 200, which is one of the main color negative films you can get for this camera. And then you have the famous Lomochrome Color 92-400, which I've shot on 35mm before, and I have a separate video, which I'll link in the description. And then there's Lomochrome Purple Expired 100 to 400. Now, this is really interesting, and I think it's a lot of fun to shoot with these different types of film that they offer you from their classic collection. Now, here's my impression of using 110 film, because I had not shot with a 110 film camera before, is that the experience was pretty fun to shoot with, because it feels like you're walking around with like a little spy camera, right? Like it's such a nice form factor just to carry around if you're on travel or anything of the sort. I think if you do pick up this camera and you're starting off, you really need to practice several roles to really understand the zone focusing system and how this camera functions. In my opinion, from my experiences, this camera functions well with the flash extension attached and in use, and with the aperture closed all the way to get focus. Because for me, I tried to take this out in nighttime shots, and I'll show some examples. I was really missing the frame, and I was really missing my focus. After a couple rolls, I kind of got the hang of it, but I still felt like what I saw through the viewfinder and what I thought I was focusing properly did not match up. And a lot of that is, I will admit, due to user error, because I don't zone focus often. I usually need a really bright viewfinder due to my vision. So I think a lot of those combos, at least for my personal needs, does not match up with this camera. And another thing to talk about is that developing for 110 film is not cheap. It is incredibly expensive because not many labs want to offer 110 film because it kind of disrupts their flow. 35mm and 120 is the main bulk of their money, and it's easy to load those into machines. The second you start introducing kind of niche film sizes like 110 film, you're starting to disrupt their flow as a business. So I was lucky enough to find a film lab in Manhattan called Color Resource Center, which is a really cool lab you should check out if you're in New York. And I also shipped some rolls to the darkroom. They did a good job developing. I was just disappointed in the fact that I missed so many shots. So my first 2 rolls, about half of them were not usable. I bet the lab was wondering what the hell I was doing. Otherwise, I like the fact that Lomography still will supply you 110 film. I don't know what their supply is right now on their website, but if you're a huge fan of 110 film, or if you want to shoot a lot of 110 film, I would highly recommend stocking up, because I don't think they make a ton in bulk, because I'm sure popularity is a little iffy compared to their 35mm stock. So this doesn't sound like a glowing review, because to be quite honest, I just did not have good photos with this thing. I don't think this is like a bad camera. I just don't think the use case is for me, because in my opinion, if I wanted a smaller frame size, I would just get a half frame camera. So that's a camera that shoots with a 35mm roll, but the actual size of the frame is split in half. So, which is equivalent to the frame size of a 110 film camera. So you have 24 shots with this cartridge at the most. But with a half frame camera, you're splitting, 34, 36 shots and multiplying it by 2. So like 72 shots. So you're getting much more bang for buck, and 35mm cameras you can find anywhere. So I would recommend getting a half frame camera if you really just want more shots. If you want to experiment with 110 film specifically and have a nifty little camera like this, then I would recommend getting the Lomomatic. But otherwise, if you just want photos, I would just get a half frame camera. This camera, it's pretty straightforward. It takes, at least a day to learn how to use it. I would say to nail down exposure and getting your frame takes a little bit of time, but otherwise I think it's a fun camera. I can't deny that if you just want to walk around and travel, you have something this small, just snap photos that you don't care about, then I think these are amazing. But otherwise, the frame size is so small, you're not really going to blow it up as a print. It's very experimental, which is, it is a lomography, so that's totally fine. But otherwise, I wouldn't expect to get some crazy award-winning photos. So if you're going to a travel destination that's amazing and you bring this camera, maybe bring another one just in case. That's all I'll say. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my review of the Lomomatic 110 film camera. A couple more videos coming up soon. I have a lot of travel, so thanks for watching. Stay tuned.